Nowadays, many people stays home due to the circumstances and home security reach another level. So in today's video, I will show you guys how you can reinforce any exterior door in your house in the most affordable way as possible, my way. So stay tuned. Okay, so reinforcing the door, the first steps that you guys need is tools. Yes, so there is few tools, guys, that you will need, and also there is some products for the reinforcement of the door, and I will show you it from close-up right now so you can understand what you guys need in advance so you don't start working without having the proper tools. Okay, let me show you in close-up what you guys need. Okay guys, let's start with tools that you must have to do the door reinforcement the right way. First thing is going to be a hammer, 1-inch chisel, Phillips screwdriver number 2, 1/8 drill bit, carbide bore tool that you're going to have to use to do the actual installation and adjustment for the strike plate, a pencil or a pen. Of course, you need a power drill. And one of the most important things is going to be buying separate an actual 3 to 4 inch screws. And the reason why I recommend to use a separate screws, because the screws that provided with the strike plate that you're gonna buy are not strong enough. They're not heavy duty. So what happened? The head might break as part of the installation, and that's not something that you guys want to happen. So I do recommend to buy separate screws. I do share links of everything that you see here in the description of my video. Make sure to check the link down below in the description. Okay guys, so the strike plates also come in 3 different colors. It's come in the actual gold color, silver, and bronze. The actual door reinforcer, the actual wrap plate, as I explained you earlier, you want to make sure about all the requirements to install it so it will actually fit to your door. The actual distance between the deadbolt and the latch is going to have to be 5.5 inches. The thickness of the door must be 1 3/4, and the backset size is 2 3/8. Now there is other plates that will be also available online and also in my description below. So they might fit your door if the backset is 2 3/4 or if you have different thickness of the door. Okay guys, that's pretty much it. That's all you need to know when it's come to tools and parts that you need to pull this off and do the door reinforcement for your exterior door. Let's move on. Okay guys, so now you know what tools and product you need for the door reinforcement. Now the first part, the first product that we're gonna use is gonna be the lock and door reinforcer. Now as I remind you earlier, I do share links down below in the description of the video of all the tools and products that you will need so you won't make any mistakes. Now the most common lock and door reinforcer, which is going to be this one, the one I'm actually showing you in the video. So it will fit doors with 1 3/4 thickness, which is most standard for, you know, residential doors. And it's going to be 2 3/8 backset. So the 2 3/8 backset basically is where the actual hole of the actual lock located. So basically the way you measure it is from the beginning of the actual door to the middle of the actual installation of the actual locks. So you can measure it with a tape measure and see that it's going to be 2 3/8 backset. Now some doors will be 2 3/4 size. So you want to make sure guys that you measure it the right way, and I do share some pictures to show you guys how to do it without any mistakes. Okay, and the distance between the actual deadbolt and the latch, which is going to be in most cases lever handle or doorknob, it's going to be 5.5 inches. So this plate will fit 5.5 inches between the two. The way you measure it is from the actual center of the actual latch to the middle of the deadbolt. So you can use a tape measure and make sure that it's an actual 5.5 inches. Otherwise, this plate won't work for you guys. Okay, now if all these things are okay and you're good to go. You can order this plate. And the way that you're gonna install it, guys, I'm not gonna show you here in this video how to do it, but I did it for many of my customers, and I will share with you some pictures of how it's gonna look before and after, so you're kind of getting the idea, okay? Now, another very important thing to share with you, it's going to be the distance, well, I'm talking about the gap between the actual door and the door frame. And why I mention this, because it's very important. Some doors will have enough gap so you can install that plate with no problem. But some doors will not have a big gap, and basically you will need to do some modification for it to work. Now, the way that you can make it works, it's not guaranteed. Yet again, it really depends on the gap, but if you do want to try it, what I always do to make a little bit more gap between the door and the door frame where the lock size is, so what I do is basically put a longer screws for the door hinges. So what I do is I put a longer screws, about 3 or 3.5 inch longer screws, so it will basically push the door a little bit further in. So it will give you, where the door lock's located, a little bit more gap. Now it might work and it might not work. It really depending on the situation, really depending on your door. But most of the time, in most doors, you will have enough gap to install that awesome lock and door reinforcer. And this is what I recommend for the first step. Now let's move on to the second step, and it's, I think it's gonna be way more important. It's going to be the strike plate. And the only thing that protecting your frame of the door is the strike plate. Now, those strike plate that usually come with most doors are very weak. Yes, they don't come with the longer screws. They're not attached to the actual stud that it's most of the time right next to the door frame, and the stud is very important. If you reinforce the actual strike plate, and in this case this is going to be 11 inches heavy duty strike plate with longer screws, about 3 to 4 inches screws, that will give you the most security that you can get for your door. So in that way, if you install this strike plate, if someone do try to break in, if you do try to kick into the door, it will be super difficult. Now, again, it's not impossible, but if we're talking about statistically, 34% of the time when someone breaks into the door, what fail is the actual frame of the door and not the door itself. So reinforcing the door with the actual door reinforcer, plus installing the security strike plate, combining with 3 to 4 inch screws, that will give you the most security that you can get to your door. Now, if you're asking yourself how you installing the strike plate, so yes, you need to know how to do it the right way, and in most residential door, it's gonna be a little bit tricky. Now let's move on from close-up. Now we'll show you guys how to do it the right way so you won't make any mistakes. Let's move on. Okay, so this is how the strike plate look like when it's installed and good to go. Some of the things that you guys need to know for the installation to do it the right way. First of all, the new strike plate come with 2 tabs, and you can see them right here in the video. Now those tabs are basically part of the actual plate, but in most of the door that I installed them, the deadbolt, the actual where the hole for the deadbolt, I usually remove. So what I do is I take a set of pliers and I just slowly remove it. And the reason why I'm telling you guys that you might need to do that, because the deadbolt is not aligned properly where the latch is. So you will need to actually remove that small tab, the metal right here. And then, of course, using our carbide bore tool, as I mentioned earlier, you can see it. Now, this tool, guys, will help you to do the adjustment for the deadbolt, so they're both gonna be aligned when you shut close the door. Okay, now when it's come to the installation itself, so let's remove the actual plate and show you guys what you will need to do. Okay, so here's our plate, and as you can see guys, in my case I didn't need to mortise the actual strike plate into the door frame, but in some doors and some cases guys, you will need to mortise the lock, and that's why I recommend you guys also to have a chisel, 1-inch chisel, and use a hammer and slowly chisel it out, not too much, as long as it's gonna fit right in the right way. And I do share some pictures of my previous work that I did it for some of my customers, so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about and you're getting the idea of how to do it. So basically in my case I have enough gap between the door and the actual frame, so I didn't need to chisel it, but regardless. So when you put in the plate, after you're removing the actual metal tab for your deadbolt side, you're gonna put it right in. And what I like to do is I like to mark the hole, make sure it's straight as possible. And when I start, so the first thing what I do is I put the one in the middle, tighten it up as much as I can, and make sure that the door closed properly and there is not a lot of play between the actual door. Because you see the weather stripping basically is acting as a ceiling to your door. And it's very important when you shut close the door, you want to make sure that you locate the strike plate, because in most cases you will be able to move it forward or backwards. So you want to make sure that the door, after it's shut close, it's not going to have enough, a lot of play, and that will be great for security and also to seal the door. This is very important guys for you to know, and that's why the first I'm gonna put the middle screw located, make sure it's straight as possible, okay, and then put the middle screw, tighten up, close the door, make sure that it's latched nicely and there is not a lot of play, and you can move on. Okay, so that's the first thing that you guys need to do, and let me show it to you. Of course, you with those 3 screws, you don't really need a 1/8 drill bit to prepare, because it's not gonna go deep enough, so no problem. But when you use the back 6 screws, I do recommend to you guys to use 1/8 of a drill bit with your power drill to prepare the holes before you're using the screws, okay? All right, so secure it as much as you can. Make sure it's tight enough. You see it's not moving. Shut, close the door. Make sure there is not a lot of play and you can move on. And also with this test, you can see that the door is latched nicely and you don't have to slam it hard enough, so it will engage. So that's what I do, and that's what I recommend to you guys to do as well. Okay, now the second step is going to be try to lock the deadbolt. Now, in most cases, you won't be able to do it, and that's why the carbide bore is very important, because you will be able to shave the actual metal strike and do the adjustment that needed, so the deadbolt will engage and lock properly. And that's the first steps, guys. Now let's move on. So what you will need to do after that is going to be marking the holes for the actual 6 3-inch screws that you're going to install. Now those screws are the most important, guys, and this is something that I want to mention. Those are the screws that will engage with the actual door stud. Okay, now this is what's going to make the big difference with your door reinforcement. So what I do is use 1/8 of a drill bit, as I mentioned, go all the way in, and then installing our screws. Now guys, when you're installing the screws and the weather stripping, sometimes it's gonna be a little bit annoying because you have to kind of pull it with your finger and try to push it in so you can actually tighten the screws. So some cases what I do is I remove the weather stripping and I try to do it slowly so I don't damage it. Okay. You can just do this. You can also go all the way down and just move it to the side and then later on put it back after you're finishing with the installation of the actual strike plate. Just like I do here. That makes things much easier for the installation. So let's move on. So when you're done preparing the hole for the screws, everything straight and aligned to you guys, gonna installing the 3-inch screws. Now I don't recommend to use the screws that comes with the actual strike plate. They're not strong, and if you try to tighten in the actual screws in the end, sometimes if you give too much power they will break. So I recommend to you guys to buy separated 3-inch screws that you can find in any hardware store, and I do share a link in my video down below in the description where you can purchase some of those screws that they're gonna be stronger. Okay, so installing the screws, very simple. The last 2 screws. Alright, now putting back the weather stripping, very simple. Just go with this all the way down. You're guys good to go. Now remember, as I mentioned, don't forget to do the adjustment with the carbide bore tool, okay? It's basically gonna shave the metal for the deadbolt. Otherwise, in a lot of cases, the deadbolt won't latch properly. It won't lock properly your door, and you want to make sure that it's go all the way in, okay? Make sure that when you twist locking your deadbolt, when the door is open, it's got to do the same thing when the door is shut close. And this is why you need, and is very important tool, is the carbide bore tool. Okay, so that's pretty much it guys. This is how you install the security door strike plate. And if for any reason the door doesn't shut close because of the gap, like I said, you can use a pencil, mark it, and then use an actual 1-inch chisel and a hammer and slowly mortise the actual plate into your door frame. Do it very slowly guys, because you don't want to damage your frame. And this is something that I really want to tell you guys. Be careful the way you're doing it. Of course, use safety glasses. It's also recommended. And that's pretty much it, guys. Okay, let's move on. So the second part of the door enforcement is reinforce your door hinges. Okay, so what you will need to do, guys, is to reinforce the 2 screws that are close to the middle of your frame. Okay, not the one that actually further to the other side of your frame, the one that are close to the middle. In most door hinges, it's gonna be 2 of them. And those are the 2 that you're gonna reinforce with 3 or 3.5 or even 4-inch screws for better reinforcement. Because the same thing that we did to the actual door strike plate size, we're gonna do with the door hinges. So the way I do it is I remove the 2 screws, okay? And usually they're gonna be very short screws. Most cases, at least 95% of the time, it's gonna be very short screws that reinforce the actual door hinges. So you're gonna use the 1/8 drill bit, go all the way in slowly. Try not to break the drill bit, guys. Please try not to break it. It can happen, and if it happens, believe me, it's gonna be a nightmare to try to remove it. So be slow and do it safe. Okay, once you're done, you're gonna use the 3 or 3.5 or 4-inch screws that you have and go slowly. Okay, so this is how it is, guys. This is very simple process, but also very essential and important for your door security. Now, this process might and might not help you with the actual gap between your door locks and the door frame, because what it basically do, it push the door a little bit, so it might give you a little bit more gap to the other side of the door. Now, I can't guarantee that it will work, but it might. So this is very important, guys, and you want to do it for all of your door hinges. If you have 3 or 4 of them on your door, do it for all of them. That's it, guys. Okay, so now you know how to install the security door strike plate the right way. I show you all the tools, and I do share a link down below in the description. If you have any questions, just write a comment in the comment section below. Remember, guys, the 3 important points of door reinforcement. It's going to be the actual door with the door reinforcement plate. It's going to be the strike plate, the actual frame of the door. And of course, let's not forget the actual door hinges. So we're going to reinforce all those 3 to get the most of the actual door security. Okay, everyone, so now you know how to reinforce your door in the most affordable way. And if you have any questions regarding my video, if you do want to get more information, or in general, if you have any questions whatsoever, just write a comment in the comment section below, and I promise that I will answer as soon as I can. Also, if you do like this video, make sure to click that thumbs up, like my video. Yes, give like to my video. It's really important to me because this is how YouTube rewards me. And if you're new to my channel, also consider subscribing and make sure to click the bell and turn on notifications so you will be notified when I release new videos, when I release them. Also, I do share links, my previous videos, that I'm pretty sure that you found them interesting as well. So make sure to check those videos right now, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.